Yo, welcome back. Today's video is a little bit different. Um, I had this plan for like, I don't know, maybe a month ago now, but life happened as usually it does. But today's topic is know your laws and the legalities of owning a Portapack Flipper Zero. Because with both of these devices, one has the potential to transmit on a frequency which they do not have privileges to, and possibly face some repercussions from the law. Most of this stuff will be US based because that's where I'm located. But I know that the UK has kind of similar laws when it comes to um, transmitting or receiving on certain frequencies, as well as jamming. Uh, Jamming and spoofing, spamming will kind of be the three main areas that we'll kind of pinpoint on, because if you ever search through Discord or GitHub, or even just the YouTube comments on a lot of the videos that YouTubers do with the Portapack H4M, H2, or the Flipper Zero, a lot of these guys are asking how to jam. Well, jamming in the US is illegal, plain and simple. I have had the privilege to speak a kind of associate of mine that works for a three-letter agency, and we discussed jamming. And even as his ranking in this certain agency, they have a specific form which they are allowed to jam on for special operations. And even then, the FCC throws a fit about it. So, plain and simple, jamming of any sort in the US, unless if you have these specific privileges, which is a FCC license, and then a documentation saying that yes, we have authorized so and so to perform a jamming of said frequencies for this time duration. If you don't have that, don't do it. Plain and simple, okay? Secondly, know what you can legally transmit on as a civilian before you start to transmit on anything. And we're gonna dive further into this, but pretty much it comes down to Portapack H4M has a broad frequency range. The frequency range of the HackRF SDR, which is the bottom board of the Portapack, whether it's the H1, the H2, or the H4M that I have here. This specific board was originally developed by Great Scott Gadgets. It is going on a decade old. It's nothing new. There are a lot of other SDRs out there that can do a lot of the similar stuff. What makes this different is that Portapack and Mayhem have got together and they developed the front facing panel here, which is a user interfaceable system that plugs in and marries to the HackerF SDR board beneath it. And then they threw a battery on it and a screen and a touch screen. And then they created this specific firmware that allows us to test and to view radio frequencies of all sorts between the 1 megahertz to the 6 gigahertz spectrum is what the average Portapack H2 or H4M can receive and or transmit on. So if we go here, we can see we have receive, we have capture, we have remotes, we have a microphone, utilities, debug, transmit, replay. So the replay would be if you capture a signal, then you can replay it. Scanner, looking glass, settings, and then the HackerF actual utility there to plug into a computer. If we go to receive here, we can see that, and if you've been watching our videos, you know that we're currently still on the receiving portion of the Mayhem firmware. And we just did TPMS last week, but we can see that we can receive ADS-B, AIS boats, APRS, and then a plethora of other things. Receiving for the most part in the US is fine. The same thing goes to POXAG. So I know, like in the UK, for instance, a lot of the medical systems still use the old POXAG paging systems that will page information about a health records, issues that they're having. A lot of medical data is transmitted via POXAG. We've kind of moved away from that here in the US, at least in my area. I have never been able to receive any kind of medical transcript whatsoever from POXAG. mostly what I get is some like utility based systems like water and or gas. Even then, gas is mostly on the ERT system. But we have a system here where I live at that is using POXAG to transmit water relays going through the water treatment facilities. So a lot of this stuff is legal to receive. But again, in the US, if you were in an area that is still using POXSci for medical records, I would not ever recommend having those files saved on your unit. Know your laws, okay? Now, on the know your laws, as a civilian, as a basic civilian that does not have any kind of ham radio, any kind of SEC granted usage. So I'm just talking to the general Joe here that has never taken a tech test, a general test, and as well, they do not have a GMRS license, right? I'm talking to the basic Joe. You can only transmit from your HackRF via the FRS frequencies. So I will put a list here of the FRS frequencies and what those are. That is your handy talkie. That is like you go to Walmart and you buy the little cheap pack of handy talkies. Those are the frequencies which you legally as a civilian can transmit on. If you get your technician license, which I highly recommend anybody that has gotten a H4M or Portapack H2, whatever it is, I highly recommend that you get your license. And what I used to get my license was the Ham Test Prep Technician course right here on iOS, which you can see. It does have, I believe, some in app purchases, but for the most part, you can take a lot of the practice stuff for free. It is a great system. I know that HRCC podcast and the HRCC YouTube channel, they recommend another. There's a lot of good ones out there. There's the Ham Radio Prep. If you want to just kind of dive into something, this is what I used. It has all the practice tests for you. I read through the material briefly, and then I started taking test after test after test before I started getting above a 75%, because I think you have to have a 75% or higher to pass your tech. So once you start hitting that threshold of where you're passing at a 75%, then you can possibly look into an area that is going to be offering testing and such. Again, I just used this app and started just taking the test over and over again until I memorized the entire question pool, and I think I only missed like one out of that. Um, so that's one way to do it. You can also just study the guy completely and then know all the actual information, which I recommend doing. Um, a lot of the ham radio stuff that I've learned is kind of swim by immersion. So and sink or swim type mentality, right? Like you're just kind of dive into it. It's so much like knowledge you try to soak up. So just swim with it and then start learning as you're swimming and learn how to learn different techniques to get you to what you want to do with your license. The ham test prep also offers the general, which I then use as of almost a year ago to get my general license. That only took me about a month to study for. I was at another job at the time and I had a lot of free time on my hands. So then I just used my work time to study for my general license. And that one, I think I only missed one as well. So again, I memorized the entire question pool that they're going to be asking. The test is randomized, so it'll help you kind of like it's not going to ask you the same question over and over again. It's going to just pull from the approved FCC question pool that changes. I believe it changes every like 3 to 4 years. It just changed last year, so we're setting good. So if you're gonna get your tech or general or stay for both, and then knock them out at the same time, now is the time to do it before that question pool changes in the next year or two. So you have time. But I'm saying all that because when you get a H4M or the H2, a lot of the stuff you can play around with legally and just listen to and kind of experience on the receive side. So this includes part one of the Know Your Laws for the H4M Porter Pack, Mayhem firmware, or Flipper Zero. Some of the stuff kind of parallels with that. I know it's kind of abrupt like ending. As I was editing, I realized that this is going to be like a really long series, and I don't want to bore you guys by continuing on and on and on for up to 30 minutes. So I'm going to split this into maybe 2 to 3 parts and I'll release the part two of Know Your Laws sometime in the coming week. But yeah, thanks for watching. I appreciate your time, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I will see you guys in the next video.